Hi, everybody. Now you can hear me, I think. Uh, this is Don Prattle from TradeStation. And I want to welcome you to today's Trading App Store Showcase. Today, our presenter is Mr. Chris Cheatham of G Square Pro. And his product, G Square Pro, is a price and time market geometry trading tool using natural market cycles to provide traders with a roadmap for future price action. Before we can let Chris begin to talk about his program, I want to remind you that our presentation here is for educational purposes only, and all the symbols and all the trading ideas that we discuss are for demonstrational purposes. They are not recommendations. This presentation is not an offer or a solicitation of any kind in any jurisdiction where a TradeStation affiliate is not authorized to do business, including but not limited to Hong Kong and Japan. Please remember that active trading may not be suitable for you because it's not suitable for everyone. Options trading carries a high degree of risk and may not be suitable for all traders. In the chat panel, I've posted two important pieces of disclosure information about the risks of these products. You can click on them, open them in a separate browser, or you can wait and read them later on the TradeStation website. At this point, I want to welcome Chris Cheatham to the Trading App Showcase and his product G Square Pro, which is available only on the TradeStation Trading App Store. I've pasted the link to the Trading App Store page that displays the G Square Pro in the chat panel. But Chris, please tell us about your product and about your company, MarketGTrading.com.
Hi, Don. Well, thank you for the introduction. But before we get started, let me just ask you a quick question. I'm only seeing you and Christina, the organizers, in my panel. Is there a button I need to click to be able to see others?
Well, here is what we have done. Our chat panel is privatized. The questioners can't see each other, but you'll be able to see any question that's posed to you.
I see. I see. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is different from last time. So it just caught me by surprise. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. G Square Pro has been around for a while. I guess 2011-ish is when it came on the Trading App Store, and frankly, I don't know why I haven't gotten around to doing a presentation on it before now. But here we are, and let's jump in. This was a hard one for me because I started by making a list of all the things I'd like to tell you, and I got through about a quarter of it before I had way too many slides to reasonably think I'd get to an hour. So there's just a whole lot more that I wish I could tell you, but I've tried to make it to where you'll at least get somewhat of a sense for what we're doing here. And when you have a free trial, you can ask me questions, and I'll be happy to answer anything and give you any specific advice for markets you're interested in. So what I've done is I kind of put together some slides to get us started. I'm hoping that we are going to be able to get finished with the slides and have some time to just look at some today's stuff on the platform also. So, but let's jump in and see how we do. Okay, so that's interesting. Basically, what G Square Pro is about is mapping markets. It's a really good analogy. Where there are all these forces that affect prices that are not really readily visible in the typical indicators that we all grew up with. So what G Square Pro is about is exposing those things so we can see them and take advantage of them. And why do we want to do this? You're going to see there's more there are very precise support and resistance levels that are much more useful than a lot of the things that that people typically are using. When you better understand the markets, you'll be able to trade with less stress. And knowing this structure, this mapped structure for the market, will allow you to have better trade entry and accordingly less risk. And of course, smaller stops go along with this. And the more you understand about the structure that the market is working within, the more precise your entries and less risk. And also, you'll be able to take advantage of some opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise see if you didn't see this structure. There's some disadvantages too. G-Square Pro is not an automated trading strategy. It's not a buy when the light turns green indicator and does not lend itself to back testing. You are going to have to invest some time and effort to learn how to use it to its full potential. So how do we go about mapping the markets? G-Square Pro creates price times squares on your price charts. Here's an example. This is a weekly cycle chart of the Dow Jones futures. Within the squares, geometric patterns are drawn which reveal support and resistance. The x-axis is the cycle length, as I call it, can be a day, a week, a month, up to 10 years or more. The y-axis, the square height, may be modeled in different ways. Some market-driven and some are fixed. Once the settings are chosen, drawing is 100% automatic. I think a lot of people, I've posted some charts of this on the forum over the years, and a lot of people have thought, gosh, he's just creating that to make it fit the data, but all the analysis is done in advance. So how did I get interested in all this? Where did it all begin? Have any of you ever heard of PowerPoint? PowerPoint was is an invention of a guy by the name of Don Hall, and I discovered it. It's a geometric technique that's based on the logic of Gann's square of 9, and you know, coming from a trading with Andrew's pitchfork perspective, I discovered it on the Ensign platform in the early 2000s. And I decided I was going to try to make my own on TradeStation. In the course of this, I came to realize that the PowerPoint theory did not really work for me and for what I wanted to do. So I set out to make something that actually made sense for me. And many years later, here we are. So I had a funny incident. I was cleaning out some papers, and I found a graduate school term paper that was my introduction to the futures market back in 1983. It's kind of a funny story. I thought you might enjoy it. So basically, I was early 20s in graduate school, and you know, I signed up for this futures and options class, not really knowing what I was all about. And we had this group paper to do, and I saw the title and I just had to laugh. The use of stock index futures to isolate specific risks for stock selection. In other words, we were writing a paper in 1983 about portfolio insurance. And just for those of you who weren't around back then or weren't involved in trading back then, the S&P futures started in 1982. And the funny part of the story, though, is that the portfolio insurance and the topic of our paper were the cause of the stock market crash of 1987. So you could say, I guess I'm from the generation that engineered the 1987 stock market crash. I don't know if I should tell people about that. So anyway, I've been a TradeStation user for almost 25 years now, full-time trader since 2000, trading app store developer since 2011, and currently have about 900 current subscriptions. I'm not a programmer by training, MBA school background. My trading is 100% discretionary based on geometry and volume order flow. And for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I'm known as Solidus on the TradeStation forum. So let me give you a brief overview of what we're going to do today. In 2011, I did a geometry webinar for TradeStation, and was laying the groundwork for what G Square Pro is about. So we're going to first do a quick review of that for those who haven't seen it. Then we're going to go into an orientation to kind of introduce you to the different portions of the different features of the G Square Pro charts. Some examples. Useful Gann. A lot of people have a bad impression of Gann or have heard bad things, but there's actually a few things for those of us who are not tinfoil hat wearers that we can apply to our trading. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of that. And then a section called Theory and Practice, where I'm going to talk a little bit about the logistics of using G Square Pro analysis. And finally, I'm going to show you at the end how to sign up for a free trial on the Trading App Store. So like I said, I did a TradeStation webinar on market geometry in 2011. Basically what we did was we walked through the analytical process to create a basic market geometry indicator called Free Square. And this is available on the Trading App Store still today for free. If you want to watch the video and you haven't, it's at tinyurl.com/freesquare. Or you can search for my name on the TradeStation YouTube channel and you can find it there also. So we're going to be building a market-generated geometry model. To start, we're going to take the previous session's range and midpoint. These charts are all taken from the 2011 presentation. So you'll notice the Dow is at 12,000 something. But this is just going to be a quick recap. When price extends past the previous session range, we're going to add projections based on the 50% measures of that previous range. So you can see here there's already some support and resistance forming based on nothing but yesterday's range. We divide the range in half, and now let's divide time in half also. So now we have a vertical line on the midpoint of the session. And for the last step, let's connect the corners of the previous range with trend lines. And all this is generated from nothing but the previous session range. And it does a pretty decent job of defining what the market is doing. So now let's take a look at G Square Pro and what's different. It's based on the same basic idea of a price time square as the free square indicator is. There are more cycles available. G Square Pro has day, week, month, quarter, year, or multi-year cycles available. Works with minute charts, daily, weekly, or monthly charts. more detailed and elaborate geometry models. And you can choose from several square calculation methods. You have the same range model that, that free square used. There's a net change model from the previous open, close, or settle. Fixed size squares, and Gann square of 9. So let's just take a minute and step through the various features on this G-Square Pro chart and just point them out to you. First of all, you see the arrows pointing to the text in the status line. This shows you what the cycle is, in this case week, and the calculation method is for this chart. So this is a week cycle range chart. Another thing new since free square is there are now circles added. Drawing the circles is kind of a making something explicit that is implied. Anytime you have a square or a rectangle, you have implied within it a circle or ellipse, and think of it as electrons circling rotating around the nucleus of an atom. There's an energy field, and what we're talking about with all this stuff is patterned energy and how our mass psychology, our collective thoughts, get translated into energy patterns that the only way we can really see them is in the record of price charts. The inner square is another addition here that's new since free square. The terminology actually comes from Gann. It's basically it's a square within the square and within the circle, and it provides angular support and resistance in the same way that the primary angles connecting the corners do. Here I'm showing the labeling of the additional horizontal support and resistance levels. In free square, we just divided the range in half, right? So now we're adding 25% and 75% lines. And there's also options. I didn't include this in any of the slides, but you also have options you can add 1/3, 2/3 lines, and you can do it with Fibonacci percentages instead of the 25, 50, 75s. If you want to work with that, I personally am a much bigger fan of the 25, 50, 75. And likewise with time, we're going to talk a little more about time later on, but here you see I'm divided the time into basically quarters as well. The blue numbers you see are an optional feature to display the previous cycle's range on the chart. And this is just a convenience feature. Plus, in parentheses you see some letters and numbers. I don't know. How many of you are familiar with Toby Crable and his book? What is it? Short-term trading and with opening range breakout and price patterns, or something to that. I may be mixing it up, but it's a very popular book in the 90s. And actually, it's funny. Another funny story. The only trading book I actually made money on, I bought mine in the 90s for list price, and then when it was out of print and a collector's item, and 10 years ago or whatever, sold it for I think 10 times what I paid for it. So paid for all those bad trading books that I wish I never bought, I guess. So anyway, the N4 and the W here relate to Toby Crable. Basically, what his book is about is how range expands and contracts, and how when range contracts, you can expect a range expansion, i.e. a breakout, and when range expands, you want it to, you expect a contraction or correction period. And he did all kinds of, the book is all about statistics of doing all this. And the W means the widest, it's wider range than yesterday. N4 means this was the narrowest range of the past 4 weeks. I mean, I didn't mean yesterday, I meant last week here. Oh, thanks, Don. So anyway, and it's just another little, it's a way to keep track of what's going on with the market, and you can turn it off if you don't want it, but it's just a nicely, it kind of fits nicely with when you're working with ranges. And and Toby just looked at it from the daily perspective, but you find it actually is very meaningful on weekly and monthly perspectives also. The little box that just opened on the screen is what you get when you right-click on any of the G-Square Pro plots. It is G-Square Pro has customized inputs, so you don't have to fuss with remembering complicated little codes to make it work with TradeStation's input screen. This is what it looks like when you open, you choose the inputs or default settings for G-Square Pro. And so you just click on what you want, and it's all context sensitive, so it makes it all very easy to learn. I'm going to go for a few examples of the different kinds of calculation models. John, I think originally the book was, I think I paid 75 for it, way back when, and I sold it, I think, about 600 or 650. So yeah, it's amazing. I guess it's still out of print. Although there are PDFs floating around, I understand online now. So it's there are other options. This is a net change chart. And so how this works, there are different ways you can do net change. You can do it based on the range, or you can do it based on a fixed number. Say you wanted to mark it when the Dow went up 100 points for the day or 50 points for the day. But this one is a percent change model. So basically, the square here is 1% of the closing price. See, this is a day cycle, net change, close, and 1%. And so the top of the square here is a 0.5% move from the previous close. And so this is the idea of the net change is kind of an old pit trader idea. Like there were guys who would just go in and they would get their 1 point in the S&P back when 1 point meant something back in the 80s, and then they'd go home. That kind of mindset is, there are always going to be guys who are going to sell on a certain percent move, and goodness knows how all this manages to manifest itself, but you find that these little things just work, and I mean, you can do this on a, particularly on a daily and a weekly schedule cycle. That it tends to work very well. On my day trading E-mini S&P charts, I have percent changes from the open and close of the current day's open and the previous close, all the time. It's just a very useful sort of accessory technique. But you can see here also a little bit how the geometry plays in. So in this area here, can you all see my mouse, by the way? Oh, that's not good. I don't know how to do that. All right.
What you
On
can,
the
Chris, what you can do is go up to the top on that banner and find that pencil, and then take your choice of drawing
the
tools.
pencil.
Yeah, hit.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I just suddenly, all of a sudden it dawned on me. I'm pointing with my mouse and it doesn't have a funny cursor. I hope they can see this. All right. Is that better?
Well, so far I don't see anything, but click.
Nothing. All right. So that. All right.
Like, I'm gonna click this, right, and so now I have the. Do you see the bouncing ball, the laser pointer for me?
I see yours.
Okay, so you need to.
Let me try that one.
There you go.
How's that?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. All right. My apologies. I haven't done this in a couple of years. I kind of forgot how the whole setup works. So anyway, but notice how remember this line here is the previous session close, and notice how it kind of bounced around till early AM European hours, and then found support at this angular line here. Before it taking off. So, and a lot of the stuff is just you just got to kind of work with it over time and get used to it. It's very hard to come up with specific rules. If you try to, I've found in my trading that when you say when X Y Z happens, I'm going to do this. That's when I get locked in and I stop thinking. I find myself. Making mistakes. So with all this stuff, it's a little. If you're someone, like I said in the beginning, if you're someone who wants a buy when the light turns green indicator, then this is not for you. This is a tool to let you understand some patterns that are out there in the marketplace. So all right, so let's move on. Some of you have seen probably in my I started a forum post thread a while back about trading with number 9, and here's an example of that. This is an oil chart, and we'll talk a little bit more about numbers in a little bit, but this is a daily chart, and all these charts were made I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. The TradeStation asked that we get our slideshow in a couple weeks early so they can do all their approvals and whatnot. So it's not all this stuff is not current to the date, but you can kind of see how a fixed price chart works. So okay, again, let's look at the top: month cycle, fixed price, and these are $9 squares. So from 45 here to 54 here. So this is a fixed $9 square, and so this is we'll talk a little bit more about the logic of this later, but it's just an example of how it works. This is an interesting one because there's a few things I wanted to tell you about here. A lot of this stuff, I'm not really. My goal here is with all these things I've done for the trading app store is probably a little different from. I'm not here to get you to buy software. I'm here to teach you stuff that I have learned over the course of my years doing all this stuff, and things that. Yeah, this is a good example here. Pit sessions, things that a lot of people, if you showed up as a trader 2 years ago, let's say, you really wouldn't appreciate what pit sessions are all about for commodities. But there was a time when pit sessions were all there was, and so we won't get into the whole, all the issues that went along with that. But there's still. To this day, pit sessions have not really been that big a deal for 10 years or more by now. But I call it kind of a mental imprint of the ticks of the pit session is still there. And this is a good example to explore that, to show you that. So what I've got here, this is a gold chart. with pit sessions, custom sessions, and I'm using the open of the pit session to draw these squares. And I mean, the open of the pit session is something that most traders don't even pay any attention to anymore. But look, I've drawn a very concise support and resistance system here based on nothing but the open of the pit session. And you can do this with bonds. You can do it. Works really well with oil. You can do it with currencies. It's if you want you want to just trade a few hours a day, this is an interesting thing you can look at. And plus, just to understand, you have a better understanding of factors affecting your market. The close of the pit sessions is also still a very important time of day for these commodity markets. I mentioned in the tease for this, I wanted to tell you about IPO vibration, which is I guess it's probably a Gann idea. I kind of discovered it on my own when all my Facebook friends were bragging about getting their Facebook IPO, and then shortly thereafter were crying when they lost half their money. But so this is a Facebook IPO price was $38, and this is I divided it by half to make the squares fit better, but basically, so 38 divided by 2 is $19. These are $19 squares, and you can see how. So the top is 4 times 38. So you can see how these squares pretty well define these trading ranges and even the trend lines here in Facebook, and you can do this with a lot of others as well. I looked at a bunch of them, and sometimes you have to adjust for stock splits, but it works amazingly well. And 19 is kind of a peculiar number, you know. It's the only real connection is that it's you know, a derivative of the IPO price. And I don't know if we'll have time to get to live charts or not, but still it is stuck on this 4 times IPO price level up here. Here's I found, this is an old picture just for fun. I found from the days of the Facebook IPO. So it opened at 38, dropped down to about half of that, about 19, and then I'd drawn a line up to when it doubled from there. So you can do this stuff actually G Square Pro won't really do it, but you can do it manually right after an IPO opens as well. You can see some really neat patterns with all this stuff. This was a goof. I'm going to skip that. I am going to jump in now to just a little brief cursory review of Gann. The price square concept came from Gann. Really, a lot of people think that G Square Pro is a Gann program, and really, is outside of the price square and square of 9. It really is not. There's a lot of most of the things that I use with G Square Pro are really not that Gann related, but it made sense to talk a little bit about the old guy while we're doing this. Typically, what he did with price squares is he would apply them to a price swing and then just keep drawing. When one square ran out, he would draw another one on top of it or to the side or what have you. The exception of that was what he called a square of 52, which was a 12-month square starting at the vernal equinox in the spring. Everybody has a bit of a misconception about Gann if you haven't really dug in and looked at what he did. But what Gann really did was to apply knowledge that he gained from his studies of the old occult societies and old mathematicians and alchemists and what have you to the financial markets. if you want to understand Gann, get copies of his 2 book lists and find some things to read. A good start is one called The Kabbalion, and you can download it on Kindle or free online. And basically, it explains, it's a short little book and explains the bulk of the metaphysics behind Gann's market work. G-Square Pro does include a geometry based on the Gann original price square, although it's way too complex for me to use for trading. The square of 9 idea is useful though. Basically what it amounts to is a progressive numeric series similar to the Fibonacci series. If there are any rookies out there, Fibonacci there's a lot more to Fibonacci than retracement levels. The Fibonacci, the retracement levels are derived from a numeric series, and compared with Fibonacci, the Gann square of 9 model, again, is something he didn't invent, he borrowed, but is a lot less progressive, but it's mildly progressive, I would say, compared with Fibonacci. You've probably seen these charts before. Just briefly, how they work. You'll see the degrees on the square of 9 chart. This level is the 0 360 degree level. This is 180 degrees. So basically, a 180 degree move is say this is probably, you probably can't see this, but this is 28 right here. So a price move from 28 around here to 40 would be a 180 degree move. And on my charts that use square of 9, and I'll show you some more of those in a minute. If the price range were appropriate, the 180 degree chart would be basically use just this row of numbers here, the 0 and the 180 degree level. Hi, John, you got it already. Good. So let's look at this. This is from a couple weeks ago, but this is a 5-minute cash S&P chart. And it is, again, day, square of 9, 22.5 degrees. So basically what we're doing is we are taking those price levels and creating using that for our y-axis scaling. You can see here the labeling of the prices, 292.5 and 315 degrees. And I guess you just have to look at this and kind of see how it works. You have the combination of the geometry and the price and the time and finding the support and resistance zones. So it's very hard to write a sentence to explain this, but it's very easy to see visually. A lot of the mystics used to say that people we process information with in pictures, and words are just kind of a translation language. And you start working with all this stuff, you really start to see that you find a lot of things are things that are obvious to you visually, or can be a little difficult to put in words concisely. But let's look at this. So we have let's look at just what happened. Let's take this day here, for instance. So opened up and kind of churned around on this level here, and then it went up to the 25% price level and time level for this square right here. Came down and still finding support in this, and then finally find support over here. Let's look at the futures now, though. They're doing their own kind of separate little dance to the same geometry. So here we're the cash was sitting on top of the 350-degree level here. Uh, the futures are dropped below it, and where they rallied up into that zone, we'll look at them together in just a second. Here, that was the line was support. Let's jump into the next one, so you can see. So here, the futures were getting hung up by the circle and the line and the degree line, while the cash was up at the square. Then came down here. Then here, it doesn't seem like there's really anything going on, but the futures were right on the line, and there were sellers there on the line. And again here, the sellers on the line. So I mean, this is not. I don't trade this stuff on its own. I use volume and order flow to confirm it, but you will be just amazed at how precisely you can see turning points when you look at this stuff. Here's a longer term version of, again, cash S&P with square of 9. And again, this is before the Trump-gasm at the middle, on the middle of the quarter. So this is a quarter chart, square of 9, 360 degrees. So basically, this is, each one of these squares is a whole circle around the chart on the square of 9 chart. And unfortunately, I said in my slides a day or so before that it would have been nice to have seen the next day on here. The midpoint of the quarter in terms of trading days was the big down move with Trump impeachment silliness. So that was it was kind of interesting how it worked out. But and it usually we'll talk about time later. The midpoints are very, very important to think about. Another thing, I posted some VIX charts on the forum before. VIX is a very interesting thing to keep an eye on with square of 9. It does a very, very good job of defining what's going on with VIX. The 11 level down here has been support and resistance for basically for as long as anyone can remember. This is a 1 year chart, weekly bars, 1 year chart, and we're going to jump into a smaller time frame one in a minute, but it just shows you kind of the way things, you can see a bit of the pattern. So here we have this reaction on the middle, at the middle of the year. Here we have a reaction in the middle of the year. So basically this is 4th of July time. And if you look at you can go back even farther and look at this, and the price reversal points are quite uncanny. Unfortunately, the VIX cash index doesn't really help you a whole lot with trading VIX futures. They're very different animals. Up here, this was, I don't even remember what this hiccup was, but 360 degree level, very precise. What's interesting now is the last few weeks, we've actually dropped below the 11 level. Here's this is a 180-minute chart. In case you haven't noticed, the VIX now starts trading, or not trading, and they start broadcasting it in the European hours. So I made it a little bit longer than I would otherwise. So here we see this is the same 11 level that's been support. So you can see what it finally broke down below it and has been using it as a trading range. You had the Trump hiccup here. Now it's back down below, doing it all again. John, thanks. I had forgotten. So I don't trade VIX futures. I find VIX to be very useful when it works for stock indices and when they're not going opposite directions. But often VIX will turn on a hourly time frame before the indices will turn. But normally, most of the time they're pretty much lockstep, unless they're not. So don't bet the farm on VIX. So let's talk just a little bit. And I always put too much information in these things. We're already running out of time, but let's try to get through this. What I want to talk about a little bit is just kind of how to look at exploring G Square Pro when you get a chance to have a trial. The thing that literally drove me crazy for years is trying to find a single right answer that's going to work for every market and it's going to work for every time frame. Thanks, John. It's very important to focus on what you're wanting to do. If you want to be a day trader, focus on the short-term charts. Focus on, and the other thing you'll find is that there are multiple ways you can define charts that will work at the same time. Markets are like the weather. They have multiple forces acting upon prices. G Square Pro exposes forces that you otherwise would never know are there. The range and net change models are always a factor because recent market action will always affect trader behavior, consciously or otherwise. Likewise, computerized trading algorithms are constantly adjusting to recent activity. Fixed square and square of 9 models are harder to wrap your head around intellectually. Do they work because people use them or for some purer reason? On an abstract level, numbers are the building blocks of the universe. And certain meanings have been associated with numbers over the centuries. David, hi. Yes, out of shortness of time, I have not included any overnight markets. But yes, I use trading S&P. I use overnight markets as well as the pit session markets, and same for the others too. They all work. It works on every my basic trading model, we'll get to in a second, is basically daily plus weekly. And on markets that are trading overnight, I look at the pit sessions plus the overnight sessions. And once S&P stock market related things usually have the pit session take over, and most of the signal the things you see there are more valuable during the day than the overnight stuff. But until the stocks open, I'm using the overnight charts. So okay, so we're talking about numbers, and there's a bunch of information you can dig up about this if you want. But we talked about number 9 before, and 9 has some peculiar qualities, and I'm not going to get into it now because we're running out of time. But you know, if you divide it 9 by itself, the digits always sum to 9. It's just there's some peculiar little issues with 9, but it means completion. So think about that. The number that means completion. It works very well at picking reversal points or ends of short-term or medium-term trends and prices. There are other ones. Other numbers work well too, though. 9's not the only one. The two big ones that I use are 9 numbers and square of 9 and 3 and then geometric progression numbers. Arguably the stock market has been working better with geometric progression numbers like just 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, that kind of thing than 9 or square of 9. And you can just you can trade them off one versus the other. They're one day one will be slightly better than the other, and the next day the other will be. They're both very tradable. If you want to explore the meaning of numbers and this whole rabbit hole of how math affects you in ways you have no idea, A beginner's guide to constructing the universe is a good place to start. One thing you have not seen here is any tick charts, range charts, or anything like that, because time matters. You can relate energy within a market cycle, and by cycle here I mean a G-square pro cycle, to perceived solar energy through the Earth's annual journey. The open and close are the winter solstice. The 50% midpoint of the cycle is the summer solstice, and the 25 and 75% levels are the equinoxes. And if there are any astrologers out there, the 50 and 75% levels equate to the hard aspects in astrology, the squares and the opposition. So that's interesting to keep in mind. Now, note that energy is neither good nor bad, and it's neither bullish nor bearish. Energy is just energy. Are you familiar with the idea of wheels within wheels? It's associated with Gann, but actually the origin of it is from Ezekiel in the Bible. It's a very profound idea relating to markets in that there are cycles within cycles. And here think of cycle as a circle, not as a sine wave. In some ways, it's very similar to the idea of fractal geometry. Are you all familiar with is there anyone who is not familiar with fractal geometry in a market sense? Basically, the idea of fractal geometry is kind of like an Elliott wave thing, where a five wave pattern will be contained within a bigger 5-wave pattern. And no matter how big you blow up the chart, you still see the same patterns. So the same thing works with the geometry. So you have, and you kind of seen that. That's the way this has all been put together. There's a day cycle, a week cycle, a month cycle, a year cycle, and I mean, you can't focus on all of them at once, but they all come into play. I always trade with more than one cycle, typically a day plus week, or for commodities, more a day plus week plus month. So what's included in G-Square Pro? The G-Square Pro indicator, G-lines. G-lines is basically a simple horizontal line only version of G-Square Pro. So it allows you to easily put a second calculation methodology. Like, for instance, I told you I always put net change models on my charts. If I overlaid two G-Square Pros, it would be too messy. I couldn't see anything. So the G-lines is meant to just give you a simple way to add just horizontal support resistance levels. And there's online trading app support help, and of course free email support. To get a free trial, to get G-Square Pro, you have to have TradeStation 9.5, 17, or higher. Click on the Trading App Store button on the TradeStation website to get to the store. Type my name, Chris Cheatham, in the search box. And when you find me, you can choose either G-Square Pro or Market G Master. Market G Master is a discounted portfolio which also includes order flow and market breadth products. there's a 7-day free trial for G Square Pro versus 30 days for Market G Master. So click on the trial button for whichever one you want, and you'll be prompted to sign the TradeStation Trading App Store agreements. On the platform, you'll get a message to say that the product is downloading, and then the dashboard will open, and you'll see G Square Pro or Market G Master, whichever one you chose here. Click on the Launch button, and the sample workspace will open. If you get Market G Master, all the indicators and trading apps won't fit in one workspace, so you'll find there are links to download more sample workspaces on the page that opens there. When you begin using G Square Pro, you will be asked to read and accept the Market G Trading software license agreement also. And that's what we have for you today. Thanks for coming. We have a couple of minutes left if anyone has any questions. Hi, Josh. I am going to be doing I don't have anything else scheduled with TradeStation. What I want to do is, and maybe this would be a good place to mention this. One of my objectives for later this year is to maybe do some of these things on YouTube directly. You know, it's not YouTube technology has advanced to a point where I can host my own live events on YouTube now. So if that's something that any of you all are interested in, drop me an email, and I can we can pick a time and date sometime later. It'll probably be a couple of months before all the dust clears to be able to do it. But that would be, I mean, like I said in the beginning, there's just some of these slides I could have taught for 45 minutes about. It's very frustrating to have all this and wanting. I feel like I'm kind of leaving so much out of this this topic. But let me click to the next slide, and I'll show you all my contact info. Leonard, drop me an email. Let me send you some pictures. TradeStation asked that we kind of keep these presentations on only one product, but I'd be happy to send you some pictures. Combining G Square Pro with other stuff. Via email. Don, I got it in under the hour. How about that?